Trade unionists from across Scotland are gathered in Dundee for the 128th annual STUC Congress. A major theme is the state of public services, which unions believe are buckling through years of underinvestment. At the same time, they're demanding a better deal for working people. It's a message they hope will be heard by First Minister John Swinney. He addressed delegates today, pledging to work with unions to save jobs and support Scotland's economy.
What we've got to make sure is that we work in partnership within Scotland to make sure that we boost economic opportunities and that we tackle the cost of living crisis that people are facing. That's at the heart of my government's programme, and I'm keen to work with the Scottish Trade Union Congress on making sure that together we address these issues.
After the First Minister's address, the STUC General Secretary Roz Foyer spoke to us from Dundee. Roz Foyer, you've heard from the First Minister John Swinney today. You'll hear from the Scottish Labour leader Anas Sarwar tomorrow. What are you getting out of these political leaders?
Well, hopefully we're getting some serious commitment to delivering for working class people and actually bringing forward some urgent policies to improve their standard of living as quickly as possible.
Are you getting any sign of that? Are you getting any sign of that from the Scottish and the UK governments?
Well, I think we've been very disappointed by what we've seen from the UK government thus far. Even though they've only been in for around a year, we haven't seen the sort of transformational policies that are actually going to make a difference to people on the ground yet. For example, the minimum wage came in on the 1st of April, but it was pretty much wiped out by the fuel price rises, council tax rises, etc. And we've had Scottish Government in power for 18 years now, and we've had lots of talk about a wellbeing economy and just transition and fair work, but we need to see some real action.
Does it feel to you like the governments, like any of the political parties, are really on the side of working people?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't feel like that to working people, and I think that's what our governments need to address. It doesn't really matter whether I can see some policy differences on the horizon. The governments really need to think about what are they doing and what impact is it having on the ground. It's not having enough impact at the moment, and that's why we're seeing the rise of the far right in our politics.
Are you worried about the rise of the far right? And also, can I just ask you, what do you mean by the far right? Who is far right?
Well, I want to be very clear, as far as I'm concerned, political parties like Reform are part of the problem. They are based on hatred and division. They're based on exploiting the very real needs that ordinary people feel, and they're filling a space that our mainstream centrist politicians are leaving because they're not delivering for working people. So, I'm not in any way saying that working people or the people that are thinking perhaps about voting for parties like Reform are in any way racist. What I'm suggesting is that they're disillusioned, they're feeling that they're not being treated fairly by our governments, and they are looking for answers. But the answers that parties like Reform are giving are based on lies. They are not the answers that we need to create a more equal society. Ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, people like Farage are frauds and they're puppets of the establishment. And when I mean the establishment, I'm talking about the billionaires.
But Nigel Farage says that he's not far right. He admits that he's on the right of the UK politics, but he says that he's not far right. Thomas Kerr suggests that it's preposterous to suggest that Reform is a far right party.
Mainstream politics has been moving to the right far too much recently, and we don't need our politicians to start copying these parties. What we need is them to stand up, draw a line in the sand and say, we're not going there, we're better than that.
Now, the STUC has been very much supportive of women's rights and trans rights over the years. Have you found the debate over the last few years, the ruling from the Supreme Court, have you found that difficult?
I think the ruling from the Supreme Court will be difficult. It will cause problems on the ground. It will be difficult to enforce and still uphold the human rights of all parties involved, and I think that that's something that we're going to have to work our way through and try and find ways forward. It's very important that we try and take the heat out of this debate. The rights of women and the rights of trans people are, shouldn't be juxtaposed against one another. There is no hierarchy of rights here, and we have to find a way forward that's going to make sure that everyone feels supported and included. And the STUC has been at the forefront of championing equality, both for women and for trans people, as you say, Colin. But for me, the biggest worry when it comes to women being worried about violence, and what our members tell me day in, day out, is that the male violence they receive in communities, workplaces and in their homes is from men they know. It's not necessarily from trans women.
Briefly, tomorrow you've got people coming from the University of Dundee where there are big job losses threatened. You've also got job losses coming at Grangemouth. Are the unions delivering for their members in these places?
Well, the trade union movement is standing side by side with those members. I don't believe government is delivering at this point for those members. We need to see the Scottish Government. We got a lot of commitments from John Swinney today, and that was welcome, that they will not let the University of Dundee close, that the workforce will be involved in the task force that's looking at how to have a recovery plan for that university. But we need to look longer term at more sustainable funding for our university sector. And in Grangemouth, we've seen the politicians wringing their hands, putting more money on the table, saying they would like that their preference would have been to see that refinery stay open, but ultimately they failed to deliver on that, and that's because important parts of our key infrastructure remain in the hands of private parties whose interests don't necessarily lie in Scotland's future energy security or the jobs of the people that deliver that important work.